with the nature-based projects, the carbon capture or the carbon removal of growing ecosystems, of increasing biomass, of growing forests is really a crucial one. And it is at this point the most efficient way to address this, to not just avoid emissions, but to actively remove emissions as well. And so that is the one part that we see here. And again, other really interesting technologies are evolving, but at this point, that is the biggest joker basically we have in this topic. And that comes along with the other impacts that already were mentioned, of course, in the space, where it's not just about reducing or removing carbon emissions, but it is for the people and the regions that are actively involved in those projects. It is much more about the other impacts that those projects obviously bring, and for example, carbon credits are then the unit to support those activities, but in the end, what is happening on the ground has a lot of impacts that locally are much more relevant, at least in their local perception, of course, than the actual climate action effects. And yeah, so we basically try to build natural carbon sinks in a sustainable way. We always say we are not planting trees, but we are creating forests and growing forests, which is like sometimes, of course, there's a big overlap, but we really try to take the long-term view, and it's not about planting as many trees as we can today, just to count the trees, but really to build those ecosystems for the long run and to build them for decades and many, many generations in a way that having those intact ecosystems and thus those intact carbon sinks is the most impactful way also locally, instead of just a nice action you can do today and talk about, and it sounds nice, but nobody really knows what happens with it in 5 or 10 years.